Hello and welcome to Ask BR. I'm going to start off straight off with a question from Nighthawk. He says, I wouldn't say the age of the director is over because when 2.0 released, despite it being an average movie, Curiosity earned Shankar a winner with the movie minting 800 crore, etc. etc. People went to watch the movie at least once to see what this director had made. So when I put forth that question, right, I wasn't saying, like, it was more like a debate, right? It's not saying that the age is over. I was asking, is the age of the superstar director over? The reason I asked that is because of a couple of things. One is, even till a few years ago, when a big name director made a movie, you would have at least like a week of houseful shows, like, because that people would just want to go and see what it's like. Now today, like, after all this social media and all this the streaming platforms and all that, people have really begun to segregate what they see as worth watching in a theater movies versus movies that I can see later in the convenience of my home or whatever it is. So, and that has become the main, division point rather than big director, small director, big actor, small actor. So that's why I was wondering if people still go to movies based on the fact that this is so and so director's movie. So I know that that still happens to an extent, but does it happen in the volumes that are necessary to make a hit? So let's look at what Madan Ramakrishna says. Of course, yes, it will be from Puttana Karkal and Dorai Bhagwan, Sunil Kumar Desai, T.S. Nagabana, Nomad Chandru, Yogaraj Bhatt. All these directors are magical. They're etched in the hearts of people. They are the creators, etc., etc. Yeah, but you're talking about older directors. I'm talking about today, because that's what I'm saying. Whether it's these Kannada directors that you've named, or if I'm talking about the era of Sridhar, Maniratnam, K. Balachandar, that 80s, till the 80s, not even the new directors, Shankar of the 90s, I would say till the 90s. You're talking about like a different era where the primary mode of consumption of a movie was to go to the theater and watch the movie. I'm talking about now where that is no longer the primary mode. You can watch a movie on your phone, you can watch a movie like on your computer, you can watch it on a streaming platform. That's not necessary to go there. So what is the factor that incites someone to go to a movie? I'm saying that maybe the director is no longer the number one factor. So let's see what Shruti R has to say. That still holds true, but I feel that the definition of superstar director has changed in a few ways. The concept of hero worship or director worship might not change, but what they worship for has certainly changed and will change ahead. That's a very good point, because there are still directors that are worshipped, but what they're worshipped for, what people want, because every generation changes. Every generation has its own definition of who the superstar director is. So like when you talk about Sridhar, like an 80s generation or a 90s generation person may not care much about that kind of a director, because he worked mainly in the 50s and 60s. So, and the things that that made Sridhar revolutionary, may no longer be applicable to as attractions for this 80s 90s person. So yes, what the person is worshipped for need not be changes from generation to generation, and I think that's how directors also sometimes change. But the other thing I wanted to say is also, earlier you used to have directors with really long careers, like spanning decades. If you look at Bharati Raja, for instance, he started in 76, and even as late as the 90s, he was making Kirakkuchi and all that, like cross like at least a 2 decade period. Balachandar is another great example. Sridhar is another great example. But today you have directors that come up and they make one good film, and we look forward to their film, or two good films or three good films, but then somehow they sputter out, and either the productivity is not much, or something happens and the movies don't run, and something, the commerce takes in and they change their paths or whatever it is. But that's the other question I was wondering about. Are we going to see these directors with these decades long careers anymore, or are they going to burn out, or are other factors going to influence the fact that directors won't have the kind of longevity that earlier directors did. Meera says, do you anywhere feel that the sort of director worship tends to box the director to a particular sphere? Also, has this trend led to a void of screenwriters with significant directors being influenced in writing with their own scripts? These are two questions, and both are important questions. In Tamil cinema, we have this abundance of directors who also want to be writers, and I think this is one of the main reasons that kills the director, because after a point they kind of circle back to things that they're familiar with, and because they don't have fresh ideas, they kind of tend to burn out. And do you think that the director worship boxes a director? I think again yes, because from X director you expect X kind of movie. So when a Gautam Menon makes a Nadunisi Naigal, that's a big shock, and people are not willing to go and see it, even though it's from a director that they have liked earlier movies of. So I think that also happens. It's like we want one particular thing from one particular director, and I think that also establishes, in a way, it's an extension of an actor, right? Because an actor has a certain persona. You go and expect certain things, and then if that actor acts as a drastically different persona, like Sivakarthikeyan is a classic example. He's known as this family guy. Kids like him. He's very kid friendly actor. So supposing he goes and plays a psychopathic murder tomorrow, fans may turn against him because they'll say we came with our families because it's a Sivakarthikeyan movie and look what you've done, and that kind of stuff. That's not the actor's problem, but that's the way the audience is. So that kind of happens with the directors also. Madan says it was true in the 20th century when people are fond of Bharati Raja Balchandar Bhagiraj Mahendran's movies, but in the present it is more star driven. People watch for the actors, except for maybe Shankar or Maniratnam, who also started in the 80s, 90s. Yeah, I think that's what it is. I think we are more into like star director combinations, like the upcoming Selva Raghavan Surya combination in NGK is like exciting because it's a unique director and a unique actor, and that combination looks exciting. But without a big star, can a director kind of still exist? Because again, I keep coming back to Balchandar because he's a classic example of a great director who relied very less on stars. If you take away the Kamal movies or the Rajni movies that he made, the rest of them practically they don't have stars, or they have heroines, actresses like Sarita and Sujata, who are known definitely, but they were not exactly box office draws in that sense that we talk about, let's say, a Nayanthara today. So that was something people came purely on the name of that director. And I don't feel that happens anymore. Rahul Raghavan says teasers, trailers, motion posters play a critical role in the psyche of the potential audience. And Maniratnam did not have this luxury for Pallavi Anupallavi until a Manuragam happened. That is not true for Mari Selvaraj today. Today, teasers, trailers, and motion posters help to position the movie in a way that goes beyond the director, and therefore you're saying that Amari Selvaraj has this advantage. Yeah, but I think this film is as such identified by what Mari Selvaraj did rather than those things which kind of draw the audience. And I think, however much you have a teaser or trailer, motion poster, if the movie doesn't work, I don't think those things are going to help much in terms of positioning of a director. Arvind says it's still a thing of present. Super Deluxe is a great example. Yes, we are all looking forward to Super Deluxe by Tyagarajan Kumar Raja. Joseph P.S. adds to that and said, I still follow that method. Always look up a writer and director's name before deciding to watch a movie. If the director's a new guy, I see the actors and then check the trailer. If I find both of that interesting, then I go for the movie. That's what it is. And it also tells me that Joseph Pierce is a movie lover because he checks up the director, trailer and all that and then decides to go for the movie. But not many people follow this method, right? They go straight away to the star driven approach where they say if this movie has a big star and if this movie has I actually know people that said they had the option of watching a big star movie versus a big like a movie like, let's say, Merku Thodachi Malai, and they know that Merku Thodachi Malai has gotten a lot of acclaim, a lot of people are saying it's a great movie, but their logic is, I'm going to see that anyway at home because it's going to come on a streaming platform and the movie is not going to be very different. But this big star movie is going to have a lot of glitz and glamour and color and all that kind of stuff. And that can be fun to watch on a big screen. So no judgment, of course, you go to watch what you want to watch. But sometimes, that also skews from that thing. And I think because of this, like even 15 years back, people would have gone to watch Meku Todachimalai a little more, because there would not have been another option to watch that movie outside of the theaters. I mean, you'd have to wait some 10, 12 months for it to come on TV or something like that, and that would have been the only time. So people would have forced themselves to go and watch. But now these other luxuries, make us say, I'm going to wait for it to come a little while. And there's piracy also, which cannot be underestimated in terms of how it has reshaped the entire movie industry. So all that are factors. Nikhil says it's absolutely true. Even now, directors like Shankar Maniratham, Rajamouli and Rajkumar Hirani can pull the audience to theaters irrespective of the cast and crew. Only the magnitude of the pull depends on the hero. Yeah, so that's what I said at the beginning. I'm not saying that we do not have superstar directors over, but there are going to be, I think, in this list, with the exception of Rajkumar Hirani and maybe Rajamouli, Shankar and Maniratham have both had, ups and downs in their career. So even though we know it's a Shankar film, even though we know it's a Maniratham film, there's not always the impulse to go check it out, because majority of the audience just stays away. So I would say maybe Rajkumar Hirani is the only director who has been completely successful in molding his brand that way, because now his name has become almost like an Amir Khan of, pre-Thugs of Hindustan Amir Khan of directors, because people flock to films just to see who he is. But if you look at somebody like Tigmanshu Dhulia, who's also a well-respected director, his latest film is not doing well. Even though it's a niche film, you would think at least that niche audience would go and watch it, but they're not watching it. So I think it's probably that thing again, that okay, this is a small movie, it's going to come on a streaming platform soon anyway, so let me just go and spend my money on the big movie, which is going to kind of be more entertaining on the big screen. Kaushik Shiva says, I don't think it's completely true. For example, recent outing of Srinivasan and Satyanantika combo, Nyan Prakashan, was victorious, unlike the director's other outings. That's what I'm saying. So it's not a consistent thing. So the combo of writer-director has a major role. Writer-director in Malayalam is different. In Tamil cinema, we don't have that. So here we are still dependent on directors who also turn writers. So yeah, I think it's also, at the end of the day, I think today word of mouth is the most important influence. I'm not saying it wasn't influencing people earlier, but today more than ever, the word of mouth comes, the Twitter buzz, the social media buzz, all that kind of contributes to the way the film is perceived more than the fact that it is by a particular director. Santosh Raju says, all the top directors of the Indian film industry make good films in their early career and later did bad films. But in Hollywood or other industries, all top directors in the early movie are average, and when time goes on, they make proper good films. What makes the difference between us and them? This is a great question, actually. If you look at the career of someone like Clint Eastwood, he started directing in the early 70s. Play Misty for Me, I think, was his first film. And he has been growing and growing and growing as a director. Now, I like some of those movies and I don't like some of those movies. But that is different, because that has to do with the subject, the actor, and all these other kinds of things. As a director, there's a certain quality that he's come to represent that is consistent, that never really goes away. But here, after maybe after a decade or so of good work, directors just completely seem to lose it, in terms of their craft goes away, they don't know what to do, and it's like almost they're floundering in terms of that is very puzzling, because I can understand, okay, maybe you don't get a good story because you're writing your own stories, maybe you get into repetition, all those kinds of things. But how can one lose craft? How can one lose the ability to stage a scene or set up actors or things like that, which you were doing very well till at some time ago? How can all that go away? I really have no explanation for this, and I if you have some ideas, just let me know in the comment section of this video, because I've really wondered often about this. Why in Hollywood do you still find a Spielberg who started directing in the late 60s, early 70s, if you talk about his TV films as well, but his first blockbuster was Jaws in 75. But now he's still making The Post. He's still making, I'm not saying, okay, I didn't think Post is a great film, but it's a very, very well made film, So the director's craft is also, is still evident. He's still doing all the things that the director needs to do. Why doesn't that happen as much in Indian cinema? It is a very good question, and I think we need to maybe discuss this in the comment section below. Shivaramakrishnan says, yes, just like how we love to read different interpretations of Mahabharata, we love our favorite director's vision and treatment of even a familiar story take shape on the silver screen. He's naming Balu Mahendra, Balachandar, Manirathan, they bring their own unique touch. Yeah, that's a valid thing. So we go for a director for a particular thing that they bring, And even if it's across genres, I think Bharati Raja was very lucky that way, because he was still in this pre-VCR era where he could make a Padanara Vaidinile and then make an urban movie like Nirammarada Pukkal, a crime movie like Sigaporojakal, so and kind of nobody said, you're Bharati Raja, therefore I'm only going to come to you for rural films or whatever. But today, when Shankar said, when I interviewed him sometime back, he said people expect this grandeur and bigness out of me, so I cannot make a smaller movie, because then they will say it's no longer a Shankar movie. Is it true? I don't know, but I guess unless he tries it out, he's never going to know. And otherwise, there's just the scope is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and after a point, how big can you really get? I don't know. Anandi Kittu says, basically I'm a Simbu fan, but I watched VTV for GVM and CCV for Maniratnam, but I wish it changes. Why is that? The mindset is still the same for many, including me, when it comes to GVM, Maniratnam, no matter what I watch the movie. We all have our favorite directors, and even the interesting directors we want to watch. So they're all like, see, unlike me, who goes and watches every single movie, all of you have to pick and choose which movies you want to watch. One way to do that is to go by stars. One way to go about that is by directors. And if you've chosen these two directors, then more power to you. But that's what happens. It's like, because that something that they bring works for you, that the way they make their movies, maybe something about their female characters appeal to you, or something like that. So those things that appeal kind of seep into you, and say, it's like reading a favorite author. You read two books by an author, and you like that style, and therefore you go on picking books by that author. It's the same principle at work here. Finally, we have a question from the Hemant Raj. In Indian cinema, we might not witness such euphoria of a director anymore unless he or she makes films at a grand scale. Though the content is extremely brilliant and shown well, people may not completely turn into the director's fanatics because of today's storytelling and out-of-box ideas. Still, we have all these directors. He names Rajkumar, Hirani, Rajamouli, Shankar, etc. And Nolan. The names itself work as brands for this film. In my opinion, for a director's fandom to be created, he has to maintain a series of exceptional and commercial films in his early career, with which people may start thinking of the next film based on their past market and story handling. Yeah, this is very true, because see, the minute you're basically saying they have to establish a personality for themselves, just like stars, they have to establish a uniqueness for themselves, a personality for themselves. They cannot afford to be anonymous. And once you go and see a Shankar film because you want to see what is there. You go and see a Nolan film because of X factors, like you go and see a Tarantino. Now, if you notice, all these people that you mentioned have very, very specific signatures. And yes, that works as long as you're a fan of cinema. But if you are just a common moviegoer who says, I'm just going to a movie to entertain myself because I haven't been to a theater for 2 weeks or 3 weeks or maybe even 2 months, and I just want to go and have a good time, are we still looking at the cult of the director, which I'm saying was there 2 decades ago, when people would, the name of Mahindran or Bharati Raja or Balachandra was still big enough that people would say, I want to go to a movie, let me go and see, oh, the new Balachandra movie is playing, let me go and see that movie. I'm saying maybe that does not happen as much today. So on that note, because this is not concluded yet, I would like you to list the points that you have in the comment section below, and see you again in the next Ask PR, and keep watching Film Companion South.